When you retire, you may get a chance to go to football heaven. This is football heaven.
Hey guys, welcome to The Mission. I'm your host, Jameer Howerton. And as we continue on our road to excellence to Canton, Ohio, today we get a chance to catch up with two-time NFL sack leader. I can speak so highly about this guy, but I'm going to keep it funky with you guys. He's the man, the myth, the mullet, Mr. Jarrett Allen. How you doing, sir?
Oh, good. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, man, it's great to see you, man. You know, just looking at this year's class, 4 eligible first ballot Hall of Famers with yourself, Peyton Manning, Calvin Johnson, Charles Woodson. What does that mean to you and your colleagues' football legacy?
Man, it's insane. Like, I just, every time I talk about it, I just keep saying it's surreal, right? It's one of those things where, because the way the process is, you play and you're just so focused on your career and what you're doing and trying to win Super Bowls and trying to be great. And then you get, then you have this 5-year lull. So, life continues, right? Raising kids, having a good time. And then I got, then you get this recognition and you look back at who the class that you're with. And it's insane because every single one of them was so impactful. Every single one of them. And this is what I like to tell people. I go, I'm so glad I'm not a voter because it's got to be the hardest thing on earth to do, because you can look at every single player on that list and someone along the way growing up modeled their game after them. And I think that is, as players, is what's the greatest sign of respect, right? Like when I would hear, it makes you feel old, but like my last couple of years in the league, the new guys would come in like, man, I watched you growing up and I always wanted to be here. Like, oh, hey, Mr. Allen, like, nope, I got to go. We either got to fight or I got to go. So it's humbling. It really is. It's so cool because, obviously I competed against, I watched Peyton, since he's older than me, but I also competed against him. I watched Charles, especially growing up a Raiders fan,
right.
Then I competed against him several times, we're in the same division. So, you look at Zach Thomas, like that dude was insane. Like, I can remember just, no one was a Dolphins fan really back then, but that dude everybody was a Zach Thomas fan. Seymour, I mean, that dude, I used to watch Seymour, as I got into the league and stuff like that, and he reminds me a lot of, a team like Kevin Williams in the way that they're so methodic. They're so powerful in their movements, but it almost looks methodical. Right. Mm-hmm. And it just makes it look easy. So you go back and then, you look at John Lynch and then you look at Torrey Holt, Reggie Wayne. I always laugh about Reggie Wayne. Every time you play Reggie Wayne, he finds a way to get wide open. And I used to come back screaming at people like, yeah, it's Reggie Wayne. Like, how are you? Yeah, I get we have Marvin Harrison too. But why are we letting this guy run wide? Can we just cover it? Put one person on it. Just one person. But he was always the guy you watch film like, how does this dude always get so wide open? So that's why I say it brings back memories to me when you get lumped into a class like that, because at a stage of my life or my career, I have memories of watching these guys. I have such respect for the way they all played the game. And that's to me what football is about. I always played for the respect of my peers and the respect of those who came before me. And at the end of the day, if I could accomplish those two things, I could walk away with my head held high. And, I've said it multiple times. One of the greatest moments of my career is when I got an email from Jack Youngblood just saying that he appreciated the way I played the game. And that meant the world to me.
That's amazing. Speaking of that appreciation, who were some of the people that called you once you received the notice that you were a finalist?
Yeah, all my teammates, you get the text message from everybody, and everybody wants to be, oh man, this is so cool. Or, hey, what's it been like? I'm like, I tell everybody, I've just been pleasantly surprised every time, right? Because, like I said, I got kids doing virtual learning, so you're running back and forth. Like right now I'm listening. I know there's a break going to be in soon. I'm going to have to yell her to stop playing Barbies. So I just take it as it is. But yeah, Coach Vermeil reached out, a lot of old teammates, just how proud they are. And I think that's the cool part about this. I think people that are in our position recognize it, but for me, the jacket just doesn't represent, my accomplishments, right? It's not just the jacket. That is the blood, sweat, and tears of every person that has sacrificed, because anybody that says they did it on their own is full of crap, or, guess what? They're Superman, because there's so many people throughout my life that helped me to get to where I'm at. And taught me lessons or sacrificed things to do things, from my dad to, to coaches, to friends, to players, to, to teammates. So for me, that it represents so much more. It represents an acknowledgement, first off, of how I played the game. But B, it's an acknowledgement of the effort it took to get to that level. And I think that's what people, from the outside, they miss on that. The focus is on the people, on the finalists and on the individuals. But there's, they say, usually it's behind every great man's a great woman, which is true. But behind every great athlete, there is a multitude of people helping him to get to where he's at. And so for me, I just, when I hear from those people in my life, to reach out and say thank you, it's an opportunity for me to thank them for being a part of that journey with me.
Wow, man, that's amazing. And if you're blessed with this honor, Jared, who is that one? You mentioned Mr. Youngblood, but who is that one or two or few Hall of Famers that you would like to sit down with and talk to and to get to know?
Man, dude, there's so many, to be honest, and luck, I've been fortunate. I think that's what's been so cool about my career. I have gotten to know a lot of these the Hall of Famers. So Dick Butkus, I developed a friendship with Dick Butkus over the years. And to me, like that again, that was the highlights of my career. Chris Carter gave me some valuable information or,
right.
Advice, I should say, because my plan was always to retire after 10 years. And he told me I think it was year 9 in my career. We were talking in Minnesota. And he just said, Jay, he's like, when you think you're done, play 2 more. Right. And that was incredible. Although I do have to say, in my last 2 years, I busted my L5 twice and broke my foot. So thanks, Chris. But I understood what he meant. Like, right, empty that tank. Like, make sure that that's empty, because I think so many guys go out not on their own fruition and think they still have more. With me, I got to play my career my way. I knew when I was retiring. I knew what teams I ever wanted to be traded to. So I was blessed that way. Never cut, all that kind of stuff. So I mean, guys like that, I would love to sit down and talk to Lambert, Jack Lambert's of the world. I mean, I know Howie because I get to play with his kids, but knowing Howie, so there's so many guys that Bradshaw, I've been to talk to them over the years. I honestly, I wish. They talk about who would you like to talk. You're talking about Hall of Fame. Too bad. Walter Payton isn't with us still. I think everybody would love to sit down and talk with him. I'm trying to think, man. The one top, man. It's just hard. It's so hard to sit there and think. Joe Montana. Even though he's a quarterback, I think I'd love to just.
I want to talk to you about Joe Montana, because we're going to have some fun later on in the interview, because I mean, being a 2-time sack leader, I know you got a chance to get at a few guys in your time, but I can't wait to talk to you about that. What it would have been like to kind of sack him.
Oh man, it would have been an honor. Everybody asked, like, who's the favorite quarterback you ever sacked? I said all the greats, right? all the great ones, because they're so hard to get to that you want to make sure that you get to them, right?
Right.
And so, to play against Joe Montana would have been, it's one of those things where, like, I can sit here and say it now, like, oh man, I wish I would have get to play, but do I really want to play against Joe Montana? That's funny. But speaking of guys that quarterbacks and stuff like that, I remember when I first came in the league, Rich Gannon was still the quarterback for the Raiders. And I'm just like, grew up a Raiders fan out of California. I'm like, man, like, that dude is mobile. He's everywhere. He makes people look like great. And then he retired right as I got, right before my rookie year. And I was just like, yes. But yeah, a chance to play against Joe Montana, amazing. A chance to play against, you look at guys, I think, Steve Young's another guy I could enjoy talking to for a bit, because he's a guy that kind of, took that mobile quarterback to that Hall of Fame level. I mean, you look at Randall Cunningham and what he did for the game, and Warren Moon and stuff like that. But even then, I think Warren Moon was probably more of a pocket passer than Steve Young was. And you look what he was able to do, and take that and put people on the edge. I mean, you look at guys who had success like Jake Plummer later in their careers, running those bootlegs on the hybrid West Coast offense, making it hard on those D linemen. But yeah, those are a handful of the guys that I wouldn't mind. I might sit down with and breaking bread.
Now, have you ever been to the Hall of Fame before?
I haven't. You know what? I got invited to go. For Brett's induction and Tony's induction, but they fall on my youngest's birthday. Like, the Hall of Fame right around my youngest's birthday.
Right.
And so it was like, they were such great honor. I remember for both of them, we had our plane tickets by, and we were getting ready to go. And then it was just like, we can't leave our daughter with grandma for her birthday. So
Right.
we ended up, so I haven't gone. And now I'm to the point where I'm not going to go until I get in, or if I get in. That's the same thing with Hawaii. I never went to Hawaii until I made my first Pro Bowl. I don't know. I made that assumption as a young kid too, and I just wrote it out.
I think it must be a defensive lineman thing, because that's what Richard Seymour said. He was like, I don't want to come here to Canton until I'm in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
And I think it'd be one thing if my career ended differently and I didn't, and people didn't say, oh, you have a shot, or, you're in those lines, then yeah, I would go, and, if I was a journeyman, I would go and embrace, because I do love it. It's so cool. I'm a fan of the game. Right. But yeah, and it wasn't like I never made that declaration. Oh, I'm not going to the hall unless I'm in. I had a couple opportunities that slipped, and then life takes over. Then you didn't really have a reason. I didn't really have a reason to go. And then you look at, COVID, and then then it's like, now I'm sitting in this situation. I'm like, well, now, I can't go until if I get in. So, yes, I think, guys kind of look forward to that. And I appreciate, guys like Richard saying that, because you get to soak it all in for the first time.
That's right.
And I'll never forget, my first Pro Bowl, I'd never been to Hawaii. Right. So my experience was 10 times greater than everybody else that had been there before, because I'm experiencing Hawaii for the first time. I'm experiencing the Pro Bowl for the first time. It was just like sensory overload,
That's
and
right.
same thing with Canton, to walk in and to see it for the first time, and to be there as a part of that. That's got to be something that's just so special and so amazing, and it's something that, when and if it happens, my kids will remember. It's going to be amazing.
Taking a look back at your career, you spoke about how, so many people had poured into you. Let's go through your journey. Everybody knows you for the bulk of your time wreaking havoc on the field in the Minnesota Vikings uniform, but you spent some time with the Kansas City Chiefs first and foremost, and then you made your way through the career. Let's talk about your progression. What was that time like spending Kansas City that propelled you to Minnesota, and then
Kansas City was amazing. I learned so much in Kansas City, not just from a football standpoint, but from a life standpoint, right? Obviously everybody knows I got in a little trouble early in my career, and it was a maturation process, so to speak. I needed to mature as a man, as a human being. I needed to grow up, right? I mean, so you grow up playing football your whole life. In college, you're a meat stick, and so Kansas City to me was not only the start of my career. It was literally so many learning lessons that you get. I got blessed to be drafted by Coach Vermeil, right? And have a team that to understand football the way, in my mind, football still is old school, right? I came into a locker room with 1, 2, 3 Hall of Famers, and then you bring Ty Law in. Says, well, 4. I played with 4 Hall of Famers in my first 4 years. With Willie Rofe. My baptism by fire was Willie Rofe, who in my mind was the greatest tackle to ever play the game. Tony Gonzalez, Priest Holmes was there. You had Will Shields, Brian Waters, who might be one of the most underrated guards to ever play the game. That dude was a stud. So you're just looking at this, and this was back with Marty, but Marty was in San Diego, so it was still power football. They made me bulk up to 275. I came in at 265. I had to bulk up to 275, and it was run first. We lived by the motto: you had to earn the right to rush the passer. So I learned, then I had mentors like Eric Hicks and Bonnie Holiday, Sean Barber, Greg Wesley and Jerome Woods. Scott Pagina. The list goes on. I had so many influential players that taught me how to be a pro, right? And then you bring in Herm Edwards into the mix, and now I have a mentor on how to be a human. Again, Coach, and that's one thing I love about Coach Vermeil. Coach Vermeil taught us toughness. Coach Vermeil would run us through when you talk about a Coach Vermeil practice, that is no joke. Invincible, that they're not lying. It was no joke. But he would give you a hug and let you know as a man, as an alpha male, you need to show love for each other, right? So wow, he created these. I got so blessed to have so many the right people at the right time in my life, and then to go to Minnesota, where I Brad, I love, me and Coach Childress to this day are still so great friends, and a D coordinator like Leslie Frazier, and a locker room there that they were all at different steps of their life, right? Married with kids, and still that same kind of deal as I'm kind of maturing as a human being, and then Coach Frazier, and as I'm diving back into my faith, and just. So the good Lord has always put me in the right position at the right time. And those two stops really, they really formed me. But Kansas City, Kansas City was like that mold, right? That was that foundation that the house was built on. And I never had any plans to live in Kansas City. The business side takes over sometimes and you got to do what you got to do, but I still love that organization. I love all the fans there are phenomenal. Like I said, I mean, I matured as a human being, as a pro there, led the league the first time, my first Pro Bowl as a Chief. And I got to learn from some of the best people to ever play this game. Like I said, I was lucky. I mean, to be in a locker room, like I said, four Hall of Famers is something that I don't think many people can say that they had the experience of doing.
That's right. Then to go to Chicago and then to finish your career in Carolina, that must have been phenomenal as well.
Yeah, so Chicago, I laugh when I say Chicago was the first time in my career I ever took the money. I was planning on retiring. I actually had my retirement letter written up. And then, Chris Carter's words of advice came into play, and Chicago made me an offer I couldn't say no to. That was a debacle of a deal. I get there and, I'm training and, I'm training there. My wife, she was pregnant with our second. So I was training there versus at my place in Arizona. I blew my L5 out in right 6 weeks before camp. So I dealt with that the whole year, caught pneumonia. It was just a spiral. But like I said, I was also lucky, then Fox came in and, Fangio and great coaches, love those guys. But, they're switching to this hybrid 4-3-4 stand up. And, so I was able to go to them and say, let me go finish my career with my hand in my dirt where I belong. And so was able to work the trade to Carolina, and Coach Rivera, another phenomenal pick. And the greatest part about it, so I decided to continue because, the last couple of years of Minnesota were kind of crazy. And I said, I just want to have fun playing football again.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, at this point I was already well over 100 sacks and so I was looking, I was trying to make a Super Bowl. Chicago had the number 2 offense at the year, so I was kind of cherry picking where I'd try to go with a good offense. I wanted to go to a chance at a Super Bowl, but I wanted to have fun. I wanted to have fun playing football again, because sometimes you get so caught up, and Fitzgerald and I always talk about this, the chase for greatness, constantly chasing greatness, really it wears on you, and the preparation that it takes. And so, the good Lord blessed me with Carolina. Was one of the funniest years I've had, probably other than my first 4 years in Minnesota. Such a great team, such a great locker room, and I laugh. I say, we always learn lessons. Sports is about learning lessons, right?
That's right.
So I had my most successful year in a season that we won 3 games, right? 22 sacks that year, crazy. And then I have my most successful year from a team standpoint, from a football standpoint, in a year I have my worst statistical year, right? And it comes full circle, because it's like you spend your career, and Coach Vermeil told me one time, he said, son, listen here, he said, football is an individual sport. So the best way you help us win is by being the best defensive end you could ever be. And I took that to heart, and I tried to make every single play all the time. But it came full circle, and I look back, and as I reflected on it, I was like, the Lord's funny. You have all this individual success, but I never got to the ultimate dream, right? Mm-hmm. And I had to battle through injury and really just becoming what I started my league with, was stopping the run in Carolina. I think we were number 4 in the run that year. And but from a sack standpoint wasn't my worst statistical year, but I had the most success by going to the Super Bowl. So that's why I said sports are humbling. It's amazing how in a team game, sometimes you got to give up some of yourself to have success. Right. And so, from my first year to the last year, I was learning lessons. I was learning valuable, life lessons. And man, I tell you what, I was blessed. I was 100% blessed to have the career I had.
That's amazing, Jared. Well, I want to really take some time to look back, because with 136 sacks, and as you mentioned, 22 in that 2011 challenging year, I'm going to have some fun. We're going to have some fun here. I'm going to hold up some pictures, and I want to get your take, because shout out to MinnesotaVikings.com content and production department. They did a phenomenal job with 73 pictures.
Yeah. Okay.
That really, okay. I was like, good looking out. And
I'll tell you what, their media department is legit. It's got to be one of the, and I'm biased for sure, because they're some of my closest friends over there.
Right.
But yeah, the media department, they got their own studio there. They kill it. They crush it.
Legit. Well, I want to start out with this one.
Oh,
night.
Yeah.
And
you know what? No, that wasn't even a sack.
That wasn't a sack?
No, he flicked his arm. I think he flicked his arm forward, he got that one out. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Ridiculous.
Well, this one looked like it was a sack.
Oh, that was a sack fumble, I believed. And yeah, anytime you can hit Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers, bring it on.
I really appreciate this one because it looked like Money wanted to give you a hug. Like, come on, Jerry, like chill out for a second.
So
but you wasn't having it.
I trained MMA for 8 years while I was playing, right? With some of the greatest, guys in the UFC and stuff like that. And I was like, I had him. I wasn't going to let him go. First of all, I was shocked that he still had the ball. And so I was like, well, screw it. I'm just going to pull guard. I'm just coming down. Bring him down with me, baby. Let's go. The tackle, they can all get it. We can all go to the ground together.
and They say Big Ben is hard to bring down. Yeah, you kind of put that to rest.
Yeah, you know what? I was in London too, and so that was all sorts of awesomeness. But yeah, we had a fun game. Those are one of those games that you wish wouldn't stop because you're just smashing somebody.
Now this was pretty cool. Look like you dropped back in coverage and And you got a little, JJ Watt got a little U on there. You kind of set the mold for JJ.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. I was, before there was a JJ Watt, I was doing everything he was already doing. But yeah, that one was fun because we had a little zone blitz come on, and I knew Philip was going to go because I played against Philip obviously in Kansas City, and I knew he was going to test me. And an old veteran savvy move, you get your hand up underneath the pass, the little collarbone area right there, the shoulder, get a little jerk on the running back. He stumbled, ball came to me. The only thing I needed to work on, I got so excited, I didn't really think Dealman was going to be able to do anything. Mm-hmm. He kind of, my jukes were suspect. He kind of appeared out of nowhere, so I just lowered the helmet into him.
And this right here, this is what I love, man, because at the end of the day, you're just having fun, bro. This is just having fun.
Football is, I always tell people I was blessed to do something I love. And I fully believe that if people are going to spend their hard-earned money to come watch me play a game, and granted, it's a sport, there's a lot that goes into it. It is a skill set, but at the end of the day, it is a game that is for entertainment of the fans, that I was going to let them know that I appreciated that. And I was going to leave it on the field every time I could.
Wow, man. Switching gears a bit, this is a quote that I love, Jared. I love this quote. Football is what I do. It's not who I am. The things that we do today to impact these lives, to change people's lives, can last forever. We have a great responsibility to the community that supports us, to our veterans who allow us to do what we do.
100%.
With that being said, let's talk about your community work, man.
Yeah, so I grew up in a military family. My dad played football. That's kind of how I ended up being football. But my grandfather, my uncles, my brothers, all in the in the military, and so I grew up at a young age knowing that the men and women that sacrifice, and I think people forget that we are one of the few nations that have a volunteer military. Mm-hmm. Our men and women, the citizens of this country, they volunteer to protect our freedoms, and that's something that takes a special person. And so, when in 2009, like I said, I grew up with great respect for my grandfather, who was, fought in Korea, Nam, Philippines, and he was 23 years in the United States Marine Corps captain. He was awesome, but he taught me that those are the men and women that lay it down, so we get to sit at home and do what we want to do, right? So in 2009, I went over to Iraq and Kuwait, and I got to see firsthand the sacrifice. And I'm not talking about, what we think about sacrifice. I'm talking about the daily sacrifices of being away from your family for a year and a half, 2 years, maybe only talking to them once or twice a week, missing birthdays, missing the things that, we all take for granted. And then, so I came home and I had a friend, tell me, let me know about the gap in adaptive housing. And so when our men and women come home, unfortunately, some of them, pay the price with their limbs, life and limb. It's a true deal. And there's gaps, and our government doesn't necessarily do everything that they need to do to take care of them. So, that's where we stepped in, and we build and remodel homes and make them handicap accessible for our wounded vets coming home from Iraq and Afghanistan. We give them to them, mortgage free once they have it. And, because in my view, I looked at this, I came back and I said, what's my slice of the American dream, right? Everybody, nobody deserves the American dream more than the men and women that protect it every single day. Mm-hmm. And so for me to be blessed with this platform and the ability to do what I love to do, my American dream starts with a functional home for me and my family. And my home needs to be my safest spot at my most vulnerable times. And so that's what we try to give to these men and women, and as a thank you. And we've been doing that now since 2009. But I've always been a firm believer that, too much is given, much is expected. Right. And so through my work with JDRF and a bunch of other, charity work, but yeah, the military has always struck a chord because it's so close to home. And, again, it just, and one gentleman on our board, I have a lieutenant colonel on our board, and he said, Jared, the United States will always fight on the road, so it never comes here. We'll always be the road team. So we can sit back here, drink our coffee, cry, bitch, complain about whatever it is we want to do. And I think people lose that sometimes. The freedom of thought, right? The freedom to think how we want to think, the freedom to disagree. Those are freedoms that are fought for. Those are freedoms that people have died for. And so for me, in crazy times, I try to look back and look and just say, man, it's crazy. Some of the things we gripe about it's a privilege to gripe about it. And let's remember those who sacrificed. I don't think the military should have anything to do with politics or anything, because every single type of person has laid down their life for this country, and they should be celebrated.
Heard. And the Bull Riding Association, talk about that. You working with them as well.
So we did. I grew up, my dad trained reining cutting horses. I grew up in the Western life. And so, when I got done, we had some fun. We competed in the PBR for a few years, and, we had some of the best bulls in the world, and we had a little PBR team. We were having a good time with it. So
now, did they give you the horse that you rode out on?
No. That was
okay.
That was a funny. So actually, that was a funny story too. So we're in Chicago, and we're unloading, and we're loading up our trailer to load a house up to go back to our house in Arizona, and yes, we were loading our own trailers. We still move ourselves, and so my feet were killing me. We had just drove from Carolina, loaded that house up. We're loading Chicago house up, ready to get back, and so my wife talks me to go get a pedicure, right? And I'm just like, I'm not that guy, babe. Like, not that guy. She's like, you don't have to get your nails done. Just let them massage your feet, because she needed to get one. And I was like, all right, I'm to the point where I'm doing it. And it's snowing, it's stormy, it sucks. So I'm texting my buddy we're staying at his farm in Iowa the next day. And he's sending pictures of the beautiful sunset. He's like, bro, it's beautiful here. So Amy, my wife, she's like, babe, that's and I was texting my publicist about releasing, putting out a statement about my retirement and stuff, because it was about to be official. And she's like, you need to say something first. And my wife, she's like, you need to just film like a Charlie Chaplin video, you just riding off into the sunset. We're going to be in Iowa. Look, it's beautiful. I was like, man, that's amazing. Like, just no words, get it. So we drive 4 or 5 hours to Iowa, and that storm followed us the entire time, just snow. So we get there, I got my buddy's horse out there. I mean, it's like 30 below, freezing my butt off. And we're supposed to have this just this symbolic ride off into the sunset. Instead, I had, everybody saw what it was, and we had a good time with it. It was freezing, but that's how that came about. And in my moment of weakness, I got a pedicure, but it led to an amazing idea. Well, I didn't get the pedicure. I got the foot rub.
The foot rub.
No toenails were done. No toenails were done. I still got my man card there.
Well, in 2015, Jared, you definitely rode off in the sunset, as we mentioned, but competition was still burning inside of you. Let's talk about the curling team, man. I mean, I got to be real with you. I love the Chuck Taylors.
Yes.
Because I always see the dudes with those ugly, like, bowling shoes looking all gorky and stuff. And I'm like, yo, son had the Chuck Taylors on. I'm feeling it.
So, yeah, so basically I took a bet from a buddy years ago. And again, so it really wasn't competition leads, because once I do something, I'm like, I'm all in, right? I want to be the best at it. But I took a bet from a buddy of mine that said, like, 3 years after I retired, that I could make a PGA event for golf. And I was playing out in the Tahoe tournament and didn't have my best round. And he was like, dude, you have no chance. So, fast forward about another year, we were sitting around the fire pit at the house. And I think I just watched Eddie the Eagle or something like that. And so I was like, you know what? I was like, do we need he's like, you're no chance. And so I'm giving him a hard time. I'm like, well, you can't even afford the bet anyway. So blah, blah, blah. We're going back and forth. So somehow we parlayed this into, I was like, I'll tell you what, I bet you that I can make the Olympics at a sport, right? And he was like, the Olympics. I'm like, yes, the Olympics. He's like, done. So I started Googling, like, what are we not good at, right? What needs a little publicity? What are we not very good at? So at first I was like, well, I like shooting. So I went clay shooting. I'm like, but we were good at that. So I'm like, so I started going through the process. That I'm like, man, that's a journey. That is a lot of effort. So then I was like, badminton. That's for sure badminton. I'm 6'6". I'm just gonna, play that at the lake. I got this. So
We'd love to see that.
So I get on, and it's like, how do you sign up for USA Badminton? It was like, put in your email, put in my email address. I got an email that said you were signed up for USA Badminton. I was like, this is awesome. So my wife was like, well, you should probably like do it with a friend so you're not bored. I'm like, all right. So first I called Peanut Tillman. He's in Chicago, right? I'm like, hey man, you want to try to make the Olympics in badminton? He's kind of like, yeah, but then he was busy joining the FBI. And so we decided to move to Nashville, and Mark Bolger, I was looking at a place, and Mark Bolger lived next door, and then we ended up, golfing at the same golf course. And so I asked him, I was like, dude, you want to try to make the Olympics with badminton? And he was like, yep, I'm in. So I was like, cool. So I signed us up for like a badminton tournament at like St. John's Cathedral in Connecticut in like the 55 year or younger open level. I was like, this is awesome. So, but we started, my wife's showing me videos of the badminton guys, and they're just flying. She's like, babe, this might be harder than you think. Like, these dudes are like all over the place. So then I get a text from Mark, and he's like, I don't think I can do that. He's like, do you see how fast these guys are dying? He's like, my back was gonna go out. So I was like, well, the only other option that we don't have at this time, we'd only had a bronze medal in curling. And I'm like, and that gives us 4 years. And I'm like, I can master anything in 4 years. I got this. So we decided to go curling. I asked Keith, where kids go to school together. I asked Bruce, he's out here. Everybody says yes. So we dive headfirst into curling. My first match was against Schuster in the gold medals, because I don't know the world of curling. You just pay your entry fee and you get to go be a professional curler. So I don't know how this world works, because I come from a world like each step you have to be invited to the next step, right?
Right.
So my first match was against Schuster, the gold medals. I'm like, this makes no sense in my world. So we just took our licks for the first year, and then we added Jason Smith, who was a 2010 Olympian. We added him as our skip the following year. We started winning some matches. We took second at a tournament. We fell a little short for qualifying for nationals, but here's the cool part. My first year, I got invited to be the alternate for the Rich Runen's team, who was the defending national champions at the time. So, and this is where I laugh, because, I went from being the guy that was always on the field, to the guy sitting on the bench who, when the game was out of reach, you got to go in and play. So luckily they were really good, and they were smashing teams. So I got to play a bunch during nationals, and we ended up taking second. So I have a silver medal from the 2000, what was this, 2 years ago? So 2018 national curling. Silver medalist, baby. So yeah,
But what's next? What's next? Are you guys going to ramp up and get ready for
with COVID? Curling's on the back burner right now because nothing's going on. But yeah, as of right now, it's we're kind of trying to figure it out. I talked with Jace. I actually talked to a couple of guys the other day. The rumor is they're hoping this is under control by May, to where everybody feels safe to have a tournament or do something for nationals. But yeah, once everything's safe to get back at things, then yeah, we'll see where the team shakes out. But we're definitely, for me, I'm still trying to make the Olympics.
So what is it? I mean, what's the strategy like, man? Take me through that, because it's like, I mean,
so we have an advantage sweeping once you learn your techniques and stuff, because we're just big bodies, right? So the amount of force you put on the ice is going to basically sweeping. You're trying to either hold the rock straight, depending on the direction you're sweeping, speed it up, right? To get distance, or after it breaks, you're trying to make it curl more. But the crazy part about curling is you literally, it's like the short game of golf, right? Where aggression does not matter, and you really have to. I mean, you'll sweep the entire length of the floor, then it's your turn to throw a rock, and you're like, so you got to have like breath control, your heart rate, so you don't just throw it across the ice, So really, it's a game of finesse and body control. And there's so many different elements to it versus, these guys, the speed of how fast you slide versus how fast you release the rock versus the distance it's going to travel. So you're constantly, the ice is constantly changing. So you're constantly learning the variables and the speeds and equating that to a time. So you can give your guy an estimate of what he needs to throw, like craziness, right? And then it's chess on the other end. As you're skipping, it's chess. You're thinking 3-4 moves ahead. So it's really cool, but you have to have a very short memory, because if you throw a bad rock, you have to come back and throw a good. You have a bad, and you can't let that catapult. But it really is. It's a lot like it's very much finesse game, and then the power comes to sweeping. And where in football, your emotions, you get adrenaline, you get going, you're gonna smash somebody. You can't do that. I've broken a few brooms from losing. But the only highlight
this is all technique.
Again, I don't understand this. The winners have to like sweep the ice afterwards, and then the winners have to buy the losers a beer. And I'm like, where does this? This doesn't make sense. And if you're getting beat too bad, it's the gentleman thing. In the spirit of curling, you're supposed to concede. I had to learn to that. My first year, I conceded nothing. I didn't care if it was 100-0. We're finishing this game.
Excuse my ignorance. Where did curling come from? Like, what did it start here? Like, yeah,
started in Scotland, right? It started on the lakes in Scotland, where people used to just, businessmen used to just wing it down the ice, and it was just kind of a game that they played on the frozen lakes. And then, a businessman, a gentleman, he had some wingtips on, started the slide, and then they added the brooms, and then as the evolution continues. But yeah, it started over in Scotland.
Well, I like the Chuck Taylors. Jared. That's hot.
I was with you. I'm like looking at these bowling shoes, and I'm like, man. But Matt Hamilton. So my decision on this was started well before Schuster and them made their run for gold medal. Unfortunately, they made their run for gold medal as I was already deep into this, putting a team together. So I just looked like a jerk that thought I was better than them. But I've become friends with Schuster and those guys, and they're phenomenal. The curling was awesome. But first was Matt Hamilton had some different shoes. I was like, oh yeah, and I had a pair of Chuck Taylors, and I was like, yep. And so that Keith and I were talking about team uniforms. I was like, bro, we need to go like old school Adidas tracksuits. And the original was we originally were going to have breakaways, but you can't play in shorts, right? So my goal was to walk out there in my Adidas sweatsuit and just bam, break away the pants and have some like 1980s high cut John Stockton shorts on and slide down the ice.
You said the John Stockton, the Larry Birds.
No, but unfortunately the rules.
The Magic Johnsons.
So we went with the old school joggers, Adidas joggers.
Yeah.
Chuck Taylors.
I'm dying. You're killing me right now, Jay. You are killing me. That is the illest, man. It gets no more American than Chuck Taylors, though, man. Y'all.
It's the best. They're the best. I still rock them.
Wow, man. But before I let you go, just overall, I'm just looking back at, and you spoke about this, the Hall of Famers that you were blessed to be around. I mean, the late, great Chris Dolman, John Randall, Alan Page, and I mean, Carl Eller, just those guys that you were blessed to be around that poured into you. Overall, what would this mean to you if you were to receive that notification that you are in?
It's like I said, it's one of the greatest honors of my life.
Right.
You would wear that jacket. That's why I said that jacket isn't just, for me, it's just not the ability to say I'm one of the elite. That jacket represents, again, the blood, sweat, and tears and sacrifice of every single person that's been a part of this journey. And so for me, that's what it means. It's a badge of honor. It's a culmination of recognition. So when I always took the approach that I never arrived, right? My dad always told me it's easy to get to the top, but it's hard to stay on top. And true greatness is done through year after year after year after year of consistency. And so to me, it would just be a recognition of all the hard work. And like I said, not just for me. And so that's the best way to describe it. I think every time you look at it, it'd be a reminder of what it took to get there. It would be, it represents the memories of all the great times. Like I said, this has been the funnest part about this journey so far right now, is being able to go back and relive all the good times and remember those people and hear from those people again and talk to those people and talk about the games and all that fun stuff, what football's about and the camaraderie. So yeah, I mean, it puts you in an elite fraternity that would be something so special. Like I said, it's hard to describe versus, and again, I think it'd be a constant reminder, a constant thank you to all those that helped along the way.
Well, I appreciate your time, man, and we wish you the best of luck, Jared.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for everything. Ladies and gentlemen, the man, the myth, the mullet, Jared Allen, joining us right here on The Mission.